Welcome to Old Fashioned Finance, the podcast that mixes mocktails with high finance. I'm your host, Olivia Franker, and I'm joined by my good friend and little brother, Titus Franker.
Olivia, can a podcast about finance be entertaining?
Not without kids.
Well, all right, let's mix it up.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
that was my
good.
line.
Yeah, that was my line, too. I think we've been fired, and we don't know it yet.
Welcome to the podcast, children.
Welcome to the podcast.
Are you excited?
Yes.
I'm excited. You know what? This is something I just realized, Jason.
Yeah.
Our first guests ever on the podcast are Titus and Olivia.
All right.
You
That's
guys are the
awesome.
first.
That's
Good.
impressive.
It is impressive.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you
You were the
guys.
first people that actually accepted an invitation.
All right, folks. Well, we got a fun show for you today. We're going to kick off a new series today, How to Teach Kids About Money. This is part 1. We're not going to get into all the nitty-gritty yet today. That's for part 2 and part 3. In this first episode, what we're going to talk about first is why is it so important to talk to your kids about finance? My 2 children are here today, and what I think is going to happen is we're going to find out that Dad, who's a financial advisor, probably hasn't done a great job at talking to his own kids about finance.
They're mostly here to embarrass you. That's what they're here for.
But great, because next week I'm thinking your kids will be here
Crap.
to embarrass you. So, as is the tradition here at Old Fashioned Finance, we don't talk about finance without mixing drinks. These are kid-friendly mocktails, okay?
All right.
So if you're listening at home and you're going, oh my goodness, you're not going to have the kids drink on the podcast, are you? Well, we're breaking out the heavy stuff. Today, it's Shirley Temples.
All right. Woo.
All right, kids.
It
So
looks
before we
delightful.
dive in, we're going to
What's
talk
the
about
recipe?
what goes into a Shirley
Yeah.
Temple.
Cherries.
This
Cherries.
Cherries?
cherries, yes.
Cherries.
So cherries are one of the ingredients. I make these all the time for my kids at home. I think they're fun, for Christmas parties and just, I don't know, just for fun movie night. We drink them a lot at our house, don't we, kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time, like 24/7.
Does your dad drink a lot at home?
No.
Oh,
thanks, guys.
That's a good answer. Dang it.
He saves.
But one time our
Ooh.
cat got into
He's like
the
a squirrel.
little.
He's hiding
But
in
one
it.
time the cat got into the little compartment and knocked them all over, and we had to
Ooh.
set them up again.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that was almost it for the cat, wasn't it?
Yep,
And
the
Clifford is no more.
cat.
All right, so let's talk about what we're drinking today. It is the Shirley Temple, and there are lots of different ways to do this. However, the ingredients remain the same. So what we've got today is 4 ounces of 7-Up or Sprite or some kind of lemon lime soda. Some people use ginger ale.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking squirt,
Yeah, Squirt. Well, that's kind of got like
like a grapefruit. too.
grapefruity. I've
Yeah.
never tried that. Maybe
Ooh.
we should try it. We're drinking Sprite today. So 4 ounces of Sprite, tablespoon and a half of grenadine.
Ooh, sweet
which-
stuff.
Yeah, as we know from previous podcasts, a little grenadine goes a long way. Mix that up in ice and garnish with cherry. This is the first and probably only time that I'll say those neon, bright, Jolly Rancher looking cherries are exactly what we're looking for. So kiddos, let's take a drink and talk about it.
All right.
Cheers. Yep. Mmm. Ooh, what do you guys
Ooh.
think of that?
It tastes limey.
Good.
It tastes
Limey?
like yes.
Can
Yeah.
I eat the cherry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually I make my dad put like 3 cherries.
That's your
That's
dessert,
true.
son. You're not supposed to eat that till the end.
So what do you guys think? Pretty good?
Yes,
What's your favorite part of it?
the cherry.
It's super sweet, isn't it, Jason?
Oh, yeah. We're not
Um,
used to this kind of sweetness, but that's okay.
No,
We could use some sweetness in our life.
I could say that maybe, when the kids aren't around, we can substitute some ingredients for others and use the Shirley Temple template.
We should put Jen in this, I think.
Yeah, Jen sounds like it would go really well, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
No Jen for the kids, though. Anyway.
Oh, dang it.
Hey, kids, before we get started, I want to just ask you some questions about money. So first of all, do you feel like you guys understand money quite a bit?
Yeah. I
Has
think-
Mom and Dad taught you about money quite a bit?
Yeah, whenever they're helping me with my homework.
Okay.
And
Okay.
So the
Mrs. Good
schools are
taught
teaching
us.
you about money. Oh, no, we're in trouble.
Mrs. Good did, except she sent home like 16 pages of homework every night of it.
That's
Yeah.
good
It's
for
only
you.
2.
That's-
It was like only 2.
All right.
Secrets are
I know
being
my
told.
kids love homework. Okay, so let's talk. Let's do a couple questions here, kiddos.
All right.
So, Titus, what are some ways that you can earn money?
By getting a job.
Okay,
Ooh. Good
Olivia,
answer.
why do we need to make money?
So that you can like live and buy food and buy a house and buy things you need and water and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Also, so that you can buy stuff for other people, I guess.
Ooh, that's good. That's
Yeah.
a great
Like
answer.
birthday presents. Right?
Good.
Ooh.
Yeah. Good answer. Here's one. We're gonna find out what mom does. Do you know what your parents, or do you know how your parents make money?
Going to work. And Dad, you talk a lot at work. Isn't that right?
That's for sure.
Yes, I do. I talk a lot. That's how I make
He
money.
gets paid by
Good
the
job.
word, just so you know.
How does your boss get all the money though? Is he rich or something?
Ask him. He's right there.
Oh.
No, I'm not rich, but the work that we do, we help other people with their money.
Yeah. We just help people who are rich.
Can I ask something?
Yeah. Talking to the microphone if you have a
Into the
question.
microphone.
Oh man.
How do the bosses get paid?
Ooh.
I think she just asked that question. Where were you? You were slugging down that whole Shirley Temple. All right, Titus. The next question
he was
is for
knee-deep in
you.
that drink.
Like how did the people that pay bosses get paid?
Ooh. So usually, like how that happens is we help other people, and they're willing to pay us for our help. Yeah.
Would you pay us?
Yeah, I'd pay you.
I don't
I'd
think
pay you
Titus was
'cause
gonna
you're
say
my
yes.
favorite.
Out of the mouth of babes.
I'd pay you since you're my favorite financial business.
Okay.
Ooh.
Well, I appreciate
Wow,
that.
great.
Titus, I have another question for you. This should be interesting. How much money do you want to make one day?
I want to be rich.
Ooh. So
Okay.
What do you
How
want
much
to do?
money do you think you need to be rich?
Yeah, that's the question.
$1 million.
Oh, that's pretty
okay.
good. That's pretty good.
Olivia, what do you think?
I don't know how much it would be, but I want to grow up and get enough money so I could buy a bunch of chickens.
Chickens.
Ooh.
All right.
Wow. High aspirations.
They're so cute.
What's a bunch of chickens? Like how many?
like 3,000,000 or something because they're so
Ooh.
cute.
And
Wow,
they're only
okay.
like $8 each.
Oh.
And the baby chicks are so cute,
Yeah,
but you
at
have to
family
get
farm is
6 chicks.
You know what else
You
is
always
good about
have to
chickens?
get 6 chicks.
Chickens are delicious.
Oh.
Oh, come on.
Okay,
he's a
moving on.
vegetarian.
Chickens lay
All right.
eggs,
Make
but
sure we're
eggs
talking
do
into the
not taste
microphone,
good.
kiddos.
You got to put your mouth up there. Listen to your father.
Rawr.
How much money do you make from your chores?
About like 2 cents a day.
Oh,
wow.
okay. All right. So moving
What
on.
a cheap guy.
Mom and Dad are getting thrown under the bus here. Jason, why don't we get
Yes.
into, now that we had the cute Q&A with the kids,
Uh-huh.
and kiddos, feel free to chime in whenever. But as we're talking here, feel free to enjoy
We
your
have
Shirley
experts.
Temples.
They're children.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit, Jason, getting into before, next episode where we talk about how to teach little kids about money, and then we'll get on to teaching older kids about money. Let's establish why it's so stinking important to teach your kids about money. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about teaching kids about money and why it's absolutely necessary?
Practicing.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't do it, they will pick up the habits of the world, and the habits of the world are not great.
Yeah.
They're gonna compare themselves to what their friends have, and sometimes their friends' parents aren't as responsible
Mm-hmm.
as they should be, and that's really easy to get sucked into. I'm glad Olivia said that she wants chickens.
She's going to be self-sufficient one day.
Neither one of them said they wanted Maseratis. I guess Titus said he wanted to be rich, but what does that even mean? Like, when you're rich, what are you going to get?
Yeah,
Like,
Titus, what would you do if you were rich?
so you have
I
$1 million. So what are you going to get?
I think he'd rub it in people's faces.
Oh, wow.
No, I would want to buy a mansion and a backyard pool and have a whole bunch of parties.
Oh.
Wow.
What
okay,
about your
watch out for this
kids?
kid.
This is like the Great Gatsby happening.
about your
Olivia wants
kids?
chickens,
And I
and
also-
Titus wants to be
Titus.
the Great Gatsby.
And I want to,
Titus,
and I
how
also
would
want a
you-
refill.
Oh, a refill already on
He
the-
wants somebody
Slow
that
your
will
roll,
bring him
son.
a refill.
Yeah, someday when you're rich, you can pay somebody to bring your refills.
Yeah, so like
Wait,
practicing.
but Titus,
Yeah.
like, how are you going to become rich? What job are you going to get?
That's a great question.
Ooh. What job?
I don't really know what job I want to be. I want to have to be rich.
Okay.
But
That's
I'll try
okay.
thinking about it.
Okay,
you could
you
try
think
a
about
doctor, except you hate
I don't want to see
That
what's
stuff.
inside people.
Oh my gosh.
Trust me, that's like
All right.
that's like a metaphor for money right
Dad,
there.
I have a
It is.
feeling. Dad, I have a bad feeling that some kind of horror movie is not even worse than the video we saw in health class.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
I'm glad I'm not in health class anymore.
All right, back to the money.
Okay. So back to the money topic. So like you said, and I heard Olivia say practice.
Yeah.
That's huge. Why not start your kids early practicing, developing these habits? You know, something
keep it simple. I mean, it doesn't have to be like really complicated.
right.
When they make some money, teach them to, in my family, we want to teach our kids to give some, you know, maybe some to the church, a local charity, a humane society, something that's important to you.
Mhm.
That's what I want to do whenever I'm rich.
Ooh, me and my
Ooh.
friends are saving up to donate to tigers and axolotls and pandas.
And
Ooh.
Tasmanian devils.
And Tasmanian
Okay,
devils.
so something that's important
so
to
look,
you.
it's like natural.
Yeah.
Like we want to help people with the resources that we can earn.
So, and before we get into all because I like
Yeah.
where you're going, I think
Yeah.
that we should probably dive into that more in the next episode as far as
Right.
like what to do when kids get money, whether it's for birthdays or side
Sure.
jobs and things like that. But one of the things that I thought was really eye-opening, and I read this in more than one place, believe it or not, when you listen to our podcast, we do check more than one source.
We just don't make this up.
Yeah. Kids' money habits start to actually set in and take root, like who they're going to be with money down the road at ages 7 through 9. Those are
Wow.
real formative years. So kids, talking to the microphone. Olivia, how old are you?
10.
Titus, how old are you?
8.
Uh-oh. Let's hope that we've taught them well, right? Because
Well, you
really,
still have some time.
at their age, their financial behaviors are becoming ingrained in their personalities
Right.
at this point. So really, really important. They're
habits.
impressionable. They're
Yeah.
teachable right now. So why is practice so important? Well, for crying out loud, Jason, it's part of everyday life. Do we get through a day without, and I know our job is dealing with money,
Mhm.
but you know, we haven't always been financial advisors. Did we
Right.
ever get through an adult day without dealing with money, for crying out loud, in some shape or form?
No, I mean you're usually doing something in the day that causes you to spend or makes you realize how little you have, or you know, bills come in the mail.
Yeah.
You know, things happen. So yeah, I mean it's every day. So these kids are going to be around that if they're with their parents at all. They're going to
Yeah.
see how they
Or they should.
right.
So
Right.
I think that maybe generations before us too, it was a little faux pas to talk about money around your kids, especially the family
Right.
finances. And I'm here to say, bah, that's garbage.
It
You
is.
have to talk to your kids about finances. Now, I remember a
Bah
couple weeks
humbug.
ago, Titus coming up and asking me if I was rich or if I had $1 million. And I said, like my dad told me when I asked him the same question when I was 30 years old. And he said, that's none of your business. But I think it is important to teach kids early on because they're going to learn about this somewhere, right? Why not from mom and dad? For crying out loud, we teach our kids to brush their teeth, how to get dressed every
Did you
morning,
brush your teeth today?
how to bathe. You
Both
guys
of you?
did brush, right? Okay, good.
They're saying yes.
Yeah, it's early. Yeah, it's early. We're drinking Shirley Temples at 10 o'clock right now. So, but yeah, I mean, we teach those things because those are things that are crucial and important to everyday life. Well, so is money. It's very important.
Right.
Now,
Dad, you are important to everyday life.
that's real
Ooh.
cute. What do you want?
She's like, this is how I manipulate
Yes,
dad.
this
with-
is how I get money. But yeah, I think it's like any other life skill. You teach from a young age. We teach our kids to say their prayers. We go to church. They get catechized. All this stuff, right?
Yep.
Why not talk about money? So it's part of everyday life. It ain't going away anytime soon. Now, I think what you got to be careful of, and we'll dive into some of this stuff more throughout the next couple episodes, and I think especially when we get into the older kids too.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't want kids growing up thinking that money is everything either,
Right,
right? So there's
right.
there's a balance, and we'll get into all
and
that stuff.
we've
but-
experienced that. I mean,
absolutely.
we see, you know, folks come through our office who borderline worship
Yeah.
money, and it's never a good situation. It almost always leads to broken relationships with their kids.
And you know,
Okay.
to add on to that, like you said, I don't think that in most cases it's just like Titus said, I want to be rich, I want a mansion, I want to have pool parties. Most of the time it's not coming from that. Most of the time it's setting up almost an idol of, I need to be responsible with my money. I need to be intentional with my money. And it becomes so much about the money rather than what you can do, who you can bless with it, how you can take care of and raise a family, the things that you can do with money.
I'm going to donate with my money.
Okay, good answer. He wants to donate. But I think the point being that a lot of people who quote unquote worship money aren't doing it because they want all the stuff that money gets them. It almost comes out of I want to be responsible with what's given to me.
Right.
Almost
always. Yeah. But I think that is,
not all the time.
It's two sides of the equation here. We're saying like ultra responsible, and people who are just kind of, frivolous. Your kids are going to pick up those habits.
Right.
No matter what. So you, as parents, we have to remember, that this money, number one, is a gift. I mean, we have talents. We use those talents. Those are gifts from God. And that is important for your children to realize that, you've been trusted with these talents. You're able to use these talents to earn, and earning money means that you should be grateful for those gifts that you have.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you form that any other way other than when the kids are young.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
practice makes perfect, like anything else.
Right. And so
you don't teach your kids to brush their teeth when they're 18 and they're leaving the house.
Yeah, but on this habit front, I mean, if you're a hard worker and you spend a lot of time in your career honing it in, being good at whatever you're doing, your kids are going to pick up on that.
Yeah.
I think we all need refills on our Shirley Temple.
All right, well, we'll get refills in a few minutes here, but yeah, I think building on that, Jason, you want your kids to see a good work ethic. There's a balance to all of this, right? You want your kids to know about money. You want them to be responsible with money, but you don't want money to be everything. You want your kids to have a good work ethic.
Your kids are taking naps right now. I think we officially have got.
Well, they knocked those Shirley Temples out pretty quick. But you don't want your kids to become workaholics either. All right.
You're napping on the job. So, that's not good work ethic.
You know what? Lay your head down. You're fine. We'll get more Shirley Temples here in a minute. But here's the other thing.
Wake me up whenever you got more Shirley Temples.
Okay.
Shirley Temple requests right now.
I can't yell good. I was yelling all morning.
Okay. Well, you don't have to yell on the podcast.
But you told me to yell.
I said talk into the microphone.
Evil voice on that last video that we had to delete.
All right. So here's the other thing, Jason. If you don't teach your kids about money, who will? Because somebody will, and they'll develop habits somehow, right?
Oh my. This is one that just like blows my mind.
Yeah.
What society, I mean, we kind of insulate ourselves, right? I mean,
we certainly do.
Yeah. So like when you open up to the world and see what's out there, it is insanity.
Yeah. Well, it's you can apply this in a lot of areas of your life when you talk about teaching your kids something, right?
Yep.
You don't just take your kids to church and never talk about it outside of church, right?
I mean, I hope not.
You don't trust that the church is going to raise your children. You don't send your kids off to school and then don't help them with homework or teach them anything about their schoolwork and just trust the school to raise your children. You don't open up a checking account when they turn 18 and say, here, the bank's going to teach you about money, right? So I think that if you don't teach your kids, who will? Well, the school system, I think maybe they're getting better about teaching kids with money, but I certainly don't want the schools teaching my kids about money, and that's the only experience they get with it. I certainly don't want banks being the ones to teach my kids about money.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And I think...
We're almost at 20 minutes.
So I think that some statistics like we normally throw in would be pretty helpful here, because there's been a lot of headlines over the last couple of years about schools getting into more financial literacy programs and things like that. I mean, honestly, because parents aren't teaching their kids at home and kids are graduating with no money sense, right?
Right.
So there was a poll. I actually don't have who did the poll. Discovery Education in 2018 said nearly 50% of high school seniors exiting school, right, were polled. Nearly 50% said they wish they had learned a personal finance course in school.
Wow.
Okay. So did you have a personal finance course in school?
I did not. Okay. And I thought this was like a huge disservice at that particular time.
I had an elective. I had to pick it.
Yeah. So I took an accounting course. I think it was my senior year. And the sad part about it is I was like kind of in my mind thinking about business as a career.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I was going down the, let's be rich, and I want a mansion and lots of parties and unlimited Shirley Temples.
You'll have to clean up
Okay.
after your parties, and you hate cleaning.
Yeah. But I didn't know. I had a part-time job at an office supply store, and I liked that kind of work. Okay. I liked talking to people. I liked giving advice. I didn't know. And quite frankly, the school didn't do anything to help me explore that as an option. Now we're talking small country school, they can only do so much, but we did not even have it offered.
Yeah. If you were seeking it, you couldn't get it.
Not that it was like, go take accounting.
Yeah.
Go to Fort County or, like a vocational school.
I think I had a class called Intro to Business. It was an elective, and my dad told me, so, we had some flexibility in high school as far as picking our courses. We had the required stuff that we had to take, of course, but then we had a couple of electives, and I always remember going through those with my parents, and my dad said, Intro to Business, take that. You absolutely need to take it. I've talked about that, I think, on the podcast before, but I learned checkbook balancing, some basic accounting. I learned about how businesses are structured. We learned about the stock market. We had a section on white collar crimes, which was great because we went to the Mansfield Reformatory to tour it, and watch the Shawshank Redemption.
Oh my God.
So that class sticks out in my mind for some of those reasons, but I did learn some really great stuff. Now, I had 10 kids in my class. There were 10 kids taking that class all year.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's insane.
And I went to a small school
400 kids, let's just say. Yeah.
Yeah, so a very small percentage. And I guess the argument is, well, should this stuff be required? I'm going to throw out some more stats here. Another study shows that, I'll read it verbatim here. Lasardi, Michaud, and Mitchell did a study in 2017 saying that recent study finds that differences in financial knowledge account for 30 to 40% of retirement wealth inequalities.
Jeez.
Well, doesn't that just make sense, though?
It does.
If you don't know anything about money until you go out into the world and get your butt kicked by money,
yeah,
and maybe you straighten yourself out and you get on the right path, that it takes some years of doing things the wrong way, right? That's why there are people like Dave Ramsey out there.
Well, you think about the people that have had, like, all of a sudden start making like respectable salary.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be an advisor whenever I grow up.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh,
succession plan. When do you want to get started? This is funny because, these stats, they sound kind of shocking, but they also just make a lot of sense. 31%, by the way, and I don't want to just totally dump on the education system. A 2016 survey showed that 31% agreed that their high school education did a good job of preparing them.
Yeah, and I mean, for the last, not to dump on education, that's not what we're doing here, but for the last, I don't know, probably close to 10 years, I've gone in and talked to high school students about what I do.
Right.
And it's in a finance course that I believe is mandated now in the state of Ohio. But it's like one
let's
quarter.
go back to that in a second.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like one quarter, so you got to think like 6, maybe 8 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
They're getting out of their entire high school career.
Right.
They're getting exposed to a finance class by a teacher who they may or may not like in a curriculum that may or may not give them actual direction.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I've noticed a lot of curriculum. I mean, we see this stuff.
I printed out Ohio's curriculum, actually.
It's
I'm not going to go into that.
It's super generic.
It's very generic.
And it will not, it doesn't like give them principles that are like, don't go into debt.
So I was going to say, let's go back to it, but while you just said it, right? The curriculum is very ambiguous. We'll put it that way. So as of now, I think that there is, let's see, like 7, maybe 8 states that are requiring an explicit financial preparedness course, essentially, right? So when I looked at Ohio's curriculum, at least, the way that they accounted for a lot of this is you got to have so many hours, so many credits or half credit, but they spread it out over their algebra class, over their their social studies. So it was just basically saying, oh, okay, so look at their curriculum. they're getting some information about money throughout
They
school.
didn't even pull the curtain back, quite frankly.
Well, but let's talk about the reasons why. And now, since I think 2018 is when Ohio and a lot of states adopted some requirements, right? But like anything else, there's a runway as far as getting that off the ground. I do think Ohio is maybe the 8th that is going to have an explicitly, a financial class, basically like a primer on finance that's a requirement in and of itself. But as of now, again, they're using other courses to kind of fill that gap. But let's talk about some of the reasons. In another poll conducted by University of Wisconsin, Madison Badgers, right? Less than 20% of public school teachers felt competent enough to teach personal finance topics.
So they didn't get taught. And now they're teaching it.
Exactly.
Wow.
So if you think about it, who's going to teach these classes? I know how it was in my high school when new curriculum was mandated. They'd go to existing teachers and say, okay, who can teach this? Well, first let's look at credentials, who can teach it, and then who will teach it.
Right.
Less than 20% of teachers feel like they can do this.
Ooh.
Now, I feel pretty lucky because shortly after I got my banking and finance degree and I got out into the banking world, I did for a year or two through Ohio Job and Family Services, I believe. I did a basic finance course for individuals.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It was
I remember
household budgeting, checkbook balancing, stuff like that.
And I think in our careers at some point, we've all taught some method of this. I've done, Dave Ramsey's program. I've done a couple other ones that are very similar. So what was eye-opening for me is when I would counsel folks who were getting ready to be married in our church. Didn't do a lot of it, but I did some of it. Just how little they knew.
Yeah. Well, that class that I taught, I was dealing with some people in their 20s, some in their 30s, some in their 40s and 50s. And to see the light come on and things click and go, I never knew how to balance checkbooks.
Yeah, and this doesn't even count like the scars that some of these folks may be dealing with in terms of like emotional baggage around money. And I think that that's also a point that, these habits that we're talking about giving your children in these formative years, it has lasting effects.
Yeah. Well, I have to correct myself because I was looking at 7 states that require a full-blown on its own finance course. 21 states are now on board to have financial coursework buried in their curriculum somewhere. It's 21 now. It was 17 whenever the poll was done in 18, but now it's 21. Ohio, I believe, is the 8th that's going to have a specifically finance class, which is good. We're moving in the right direction, but that's 8 out of 50, guys.
Are you guys going to ask us any more questions?
We'll see. I'll ask you a question in just a second because I'm going to wrap it up with this. FINRA did a study back in 2015 where they looked at students who took these finance courses that were available, right? And we're not talking about business majors either. We're just talking about kids in high school who took the finance courses. And on average, in adult life, their credit scores were 20% or 20 points higher and had a much lower percentage of delinquency too.
That's amazing.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Mind-blowing, but not really. So I think that's enough for why we think it's important. And next week, I want to get into how we actually go about teaching, because this is where, obviously, if 20% of school teachers or less feel like they're not prepared, how do you as a parent take your little ones aside and say, I'm going to teach you about money.
Right.
And I'm not going to leave it up to the schools and the banks to do it, right? So we'll get into that next week. So kiddos, did you guys have a good time?
Yeah, I had an awesome time, Daddy. Thank you for letting me be on the show. Same.
Did you like your Shirley Temples?
Yes.
Are they better than the ones that Dad makes at home?
No, they're both good.
Ooh, okay. Last question. Who spends more money, Mom or Dad?
Both of them.
Mom.
All right.
Ooh, Titus, you just threw yourself under the bus.
Well, that was too much fun, guys. They had fun. Did you have fun?
Oh, yeah. they definitely were doing some eye rolling in the middle there. They were a little bored.
Yeah, they're like, oh boy, I
That's
thought
okay.
this was
They
for
love
kids.
They love you. They love you a lot.
I think Titus and Olivia are off making more Shirley Temples. Hopefully they don't hit the gin. Well, thanks for having a drink with us this week, folks. It's time to close out the tab. If you have a question or a topic you want addressed on the Old Fashioned Finance podcast, be sure to email us at podcast@bluejfg.com. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to share the show with someone you love or just someone who needs a little money muddling themselves. You can stay up to date with the latest action by following us on Facebook. Old Fashioned Finance is brought to you by Blue Jay Financial Group, that's bluejfg.com, and produced by Podastery Studios. We've been your hosts, Caleb and Jason,
and
Titus and Olivia. Cheers.
Cheers.
Blue Jay Financial Group, LLC. Blue Jay is a registered investment advisor registered with the state of Ohio. Registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The presence of this advertisement on this podcast shall not be directly or indirectly interpreted as a solicitation of investment advisory services to persons of another jurisdiction unless otherwise permitted by statute. Follow-up or individualized responses to a consumer in a particular state by Blue Jay and the rendering of personalized investment advice for compensation shall not be made without first complying with jurisdiction requirements or pursuant an applicable state exemption. All verbal and written consent on this presentation is for information purposes only. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Blue Jay unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by our firm as to other parties' informational accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with an advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation.